Iron Man can stay stuck in space for all I care. Now, that was Jack Rafferty with what we can expect in the next couple of days and what 45 hours worth of Marvel cinematic films have been building up to. Now, on the phone to explain why these films are just so massive, we have Radio Times and Metro film critic James Luxford. James, nice to speak to you again.
Thank you very much.
Why are people going so mad? Because I have to say, I don't really get it.
Well, it's people going mad because this is kind of the culmination of a storyline 11 years in the making. The first Avengers teaser, really, was during the credits of 2008's Iron Man, and the Avengers villain, Thanos, appeared 4 years later in Avengers Assembles. And everything since then, in some way, has been leading to this final face-off. And if you're a person that's been following it since 2008, this is, I suppose, the parallel is like the end of a really, really big TV show. How will this storyline cycle end, particularly after last year's cliffhanger with Infinity War?
See, I'm a little bit sceptical because everyone's being told that this is the end, this is the culmination. Well, in a few years' time, couple of years' time, there'll be another one. There always is. There'll be a prequel to the prequel.
Absolutely. I mean, look, this isn't the last Avengers film. Disney is a machine that churns out these movies on a yearly basis, twice yearly basis, and the characters will continue in some form. But I think in terms of the Avengers we're used to seeing, I'm trying very hard to avoid spoilers here, but how we move forward, what the Avengers look like going into the future, will depend on this film.
I'm not adverse to a superhero, though, because they've been massive in film over the last decade. Why do they keep making billions, and I mean billions, at the box office?
I think it's just because blockbuster films have caught up. You can have anything really on screen that you can imagine, and that makes heroes such as the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Incredible Hulk more practical to create on screen. And also there's about half a century's worth of source material. You know, there are new comic books coming out every week, and every one is a potential film in the making. So there's been a rich mine to mine to just pull these stories out of and make these blockbuster films, and there's a built-in fan base, there's familiarity, and there's the spectacle of a really expensive blockbuster film.
They definitely haven't passed my daughter by, because, I mean, I think there are many more female superheroes than there were, because, as I say, I like superheroes, Spider-Man, Superman, all those kind of ones, but the Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, just, not quite as interested in. But I do like the fact that, there are more female superheroes and strong, powerful girls, women, I suppose, saving, cities and small children and things like that. Dogs,
Absolutely.
cats.
And I think it's one of those things where you scratch your head and think why they didn't think of that earlier, because Wonder Woman only came out 2-3 years ago, and that was the first, it was for DC, not Marvel, but it was the first female lead in a superhero movie in a very long time. Then, of course, Captain Marvel, which was the first in this kind of shared universe. And the audiences responded. Lots of people, lots of female fans, lots of male fans, everyone wanted to see a different kind of hero. And Captain Marvel has made over $1 billion worldwide and looks to kind of really take prominence in that Avengers world that thus far has been dominated by male characters.
So in monetary terms, is your prediction that this possibly could be the biggest, the highest grossing film ever?
Oh, I think it's well on course. We're talking about, I read that in China, where American films don't tend to be as well received, it made $100 million in a day. And it's on to make, I think, $1 billion worldwide in a single weekend now. For context, Avatar's record is $2.7 billion. However, Avatar didn't have 10 years of build-up. It didn't have all these memorable characters coming together in one place. I think it will be a surprise, to be honest, if it doesn't go near or surpass that record.
Well, James, I know you saw it last night. I'll ask you about that. But let's have a listen to the trailer, which has been viewed over 94 million times.
If we do this, we'd be going in short-handed.
Yeah, you mean because he killed all our friends? We owe this to everyone who's not in this room to try.
It's not about how much we lost. It's about how much we have left. We're the Avengers. We gotta finish this. You trust me?
I do. You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
So that's the trailer of the new Avengers movie. James Luxford is my guest. He's Radio Times and Metro film critic extraordinaire. And James, one of the main men responsible for this is Stan Lee, the creator of some of these massive characters who passed away last year. So what legacy has he left behind?
I mean, he's left decades of stories. He became the figurehead for Marvel. He stopped running the company many years ago, but became this kind of symbol. And I think a symbol of what Marvel at its best means, which is people that were brave and doing good deeds, ordinary people thrust into extraordinary situations. And I think his appearance in every film in a cameo of some sort reminds us of the golden age of comic books and where these characters were born, which was on the printed page, and just sort of the philosophy behind it, the idea of heroism and this very kind of simplistic big screen and drawn hero.
Do you think, actually, harking back to the massive Star Wars franchise years and years and years ago and how big that was, do you think that the Avengers movie and this franchise perhaps is the Star Wars for a new generation?
I think so. I think it's certainly on that level in terms of people going to see it. Time will tell whether this generation, the kids watching it now, will think of Star Wars as fondly as, say, people in their 40s or 50s think of Star Wars when they saw it as children. But it has all the potential to be, because they're just so popular, and we've never seen anything like this. It's really redefined over the last decade the type of film we see, the way films are released, this idea of an cinematic universe. And it will certainly leave its stamp on cinema history.
James, you saw it last night. Describe the film. I don't want to give too much away for anybody, don't want to spoil anything, but in 3 words, describe it. I know that's a challenge.
Everything I wanted.
Thank you, sir. Oh, it's good then. Maybe I will go and see it. Thank you very much. Film critic James Luxford.
BBC Radio Oxford.
Your time saver.